I'm Lauren Natura, and in episode 2 of season 2 of the Positive Fantastic podcast, I discuss how you can grow your own shiitake mushrooms. I've grown my own shiitakes for over a dozen years, and I recently inoculated a new batch of oak logs because a snowstorm took down an oak tree in my backyard. The process of growing shiitakes is fairly simple. It does require a lot of effort to get started though, and this video aims to show you the steps from start to finish. By the end of the video, you'll know what you need to do to start your own shiitake logs. For all the details, answers to troubleshooting questions, and to understand the process more in depth, tune into the Positive Fantastic podcast and join us as we geek out on the magic of mycelium. For this video, we're focusing on using oak as our inoculation substrate. The very first step is to harvest your logs. In Northern California, we do this when the sap is up midwinter. Ideally, you will find an oak that for whatever reason is already planning to be taken down. Consider sustainable forestry and thoughtful harvesting before you proceed. Use a saw to cut the logs into 3-foot lengths and roughly 3 to 8 inch diameters. You'll need to store your logs off the ground for several weeks to let them cure before you begin. Once your logs have had some time to leach out the toxins that would kill off your mushroom spawn, set aside a full day to workshop your mushroom cultivation. You can set up your workspace with everything you'll need, and you'll want to assemble your team as it's a lot of work for one person. First, you'll want to cut off any excess branches before you begin to ensure that the logs will stack well together later in the process. Then, you're ready to plug your logs with your spawn. In this video, I ordered plug spawn from a mushroom cultivation catalog and stored it in my refrigerator until the day of the workshop. In order to introduce the plug into your logs, you'll need to drill holes in rows along all sides of your log. Drill a row with holes spaced at roughly 6 to 8 inches apart. Then, rotate your log and drill another row, aiming to make the holes in a diamond pattern to most effectively inoculate your oak log. From time to time, clear away the sawdust and make sure that you've got all the holes you need. It can be difficult to see holes that you've already drilled because of the moss coverings and bark patterns on your log. Then you're going to add your plug spawn, which is basically a little wooden dowel that has already been inoculated with the type of mushroom you want to grow. If you've never cultivated mushrooms before, I recommend getting a kit that comes with a proper drill bit sized for your holes and written instructions to help you achieve success your first time. The plugs fit into the holes you've drilled, and then you simply hammer each plug down into the hole until it is flush with the bark on the log. Here's what it looks like plugging the pre-drilled rows that you have made in the first step. You just need a hammer and a bunch of plugs to complete this step. Keep hammering until all your holes have been filled with plugs. The next step is to apply a thin layer of wax to cover the plugs. This helps give the mycelium on the plugs an advantage over the other spores and wild mushroom inoculates that also would want to colonize your log. A wax that is easy to spread usually comes with a mushroom plug spawn kit. You can alternatively melt beeswax and apply that in the same fashion. I had a crew of 3 women, myself included, workshopping our palette of shiitake mushroom logs. We worked pretty much all day drilling holes, hammering in the plugs, and sealing them up with wax. I highly recommend having a good crew and spending the time to visit while you work. It's a great time to have a fire, make some thermoses of hot tea, and enjoy the fresh air. At the end of the day, you'll have so many logs that will produce shiitake mushrooms for you. Until the following fall, I stack my logs on a pallet. They need to be off the ground to give the shiitake mycelium the best chance of inoculating your logs. They need to stay moist through the hot, dry summer, and unless you have a cave or a cold storage, I recommend finding a spot in the shade. Layer the logs one way and then the other. I like to place sheep's wool in between each of my logs because it holds moisture that the logs need to keep myceliating. Once you have your pallet in place, water it in and keep watering it to the tune of 1 inch of rainfall every week. Some people set up overhead sprinkler systems or drip line Mr. Irrigators. Whatever you do, keep your logs wet. After their initial soak, I cover my entire pallet with burlap bags to assist the logs in staying moist. If you have plugged your logs in the winter in Northern California, keep watering until the next fall when rainfall and cooler temperatures have arrived. Different climates require different procedures, but keep in mind that you want to harvest logs when the sap is up. Plug them after you've let the logs cure for a couple weeks, and wait until the cool, moist time of the year to expect your first flush. The first fall, I will try to force a flush. I place my logs in a cold water bath for a day. The smaller diameter logs have a really good chance of giving mushrooms that first fall. Some of the bigger logs may need more time, however. You should continue to keep them wet regardless. I will stand the logs upright for ease of harvesting the shiitakes once they fruit. You can place them in a shady, cool place. In the past, I've built a wooden A-frame that I could lean all of my logs against. Occasionally rotate your logs so that you can see where the mushrooms are developing. Your logs can produce mushrooms in the cool seasons for years to come. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and for more details about the process described here, please tune into the Positive Fantastic podcast to hear a thorough discussion about exactly what you need to do to cultivate your own shiitake mushroom logs.